Really exciting news for all of you who are part of the Dharma Drops community page on Facebook. Today's guest, Jacquitta, and I will be going live on Facebook together to answer your questions. But you'll only be able to see this video in the private Dharma Drops community page. To join, all you have to do is go to Facebook, search Dharma Drops community page, and request to join, and bada bing, bada boom, you're in. But in the meantime, as you're listening to the episode, write down any questions that you have for the two of us, and we will be answering them live coming soon. We'll give the date of the live video soon. We just want to give you a few days to listen to the episode, enjoy, and conjure up any questions. Again, that's Dharma Drops community page on Facebook. Join, and you'll have exclusive content and access to this live video. Enjoy the episode. This is Dharma Drops with your host, Rebecca Warfield. This podcast is a little bit about yoga, a little bit about life, and a little bit about whatever. And just as a warning, this podcast is unscripted, so that means I might regret a few things that I say. But hey, maybe I'll say some pretty awesome stuff too. Remember, these are musings, not truths. Buckle up, giddy up, because here we go. So are you ready? Should we get started?
Let's see where it goes. Let's go.
Let's see where it goes. Well, hey, Dharma Drops listeners. This is your host, Rebecca Warfield, and we're just seeing where this thing goes today. Who knows? Anything could happen. I'm here with my new friend, Jacquitta Boone, creator of This Curvi Yogi. What's going on, lady?
Nothing much, just living life, loving life, and trying to love myself.
That's right. That's maybe the best answer I've ever had. Just living life, loving myself. That's a good one. That sounds like the dream to me.
Listen, it sounds like the dream. It's hard enough to do. So, all of that summed up into one is just what I'm trying to do with myself.
That's right. It is hard though. People ask me all the time. They're like, hey, what's going on? How you doing? I'm like, oh, just living the dream. And then I always say but I don't really know what the dream is. It's kind of hard to figure it all out. So yeah, it is tough. So at least one thing that we figured out is some tech issues. So we're really happy to be here on this episode of Dharma Drops podcast today because we had some tech issues. And what's really cool is that we are both North Carolinians. And I did not know that when I found you on Instagram. So shout out to North Carolina, two yogis right here in one place. And you're in Greenville, right?
Yes.
Awesome.
North Carolina.
Awesome. Is there a lot of yoga in Greenville?
I think it's growing. It's still a kind of budding community here.
Interesting.
But it has a lot of growth in it. So we're still building the communities that we want.
Cool. Well, that's nice because, like you said, it's an opportunity for growth and to start shaping a sweet yoga community there. That's exciting. So you are here today to talk about, we had a pretty long list, but to talk about lots of different things. But if I wrote down just a few things that we said we talk about: representation in the yoga practice, body positivity, yoga for everyone, yoga for different body types. So I think we have a lot of important stuff to cover today. But first, I'd like to start with, how did you start practicing yoga?
I feel like this story kind of changes all the time because it's a million different ways of how I started. I've been practicing for about 4 years.
Nice.
I've been teaching for 2.
Cool.
When I came into the practice, I was like everybody else. I want to make beautiful shapes with my body. I just want to move my body in these contortionist ways, and I want to look cool and all that. I literally came to yoga from Instagram.
Oh, that's dangerous territory.
Yeah. I came to Instagram, and just looking at other people doing stuff and just trying it, doing all of the yoga challenges that are on Instagram, which I hardly do anymore.
I used to do Instagram challenges too, and they were really fun at the time, but I don't feel them anymore, man. Cause
now I do challenges based on who I'm supporting. So if I have friends that are doing them and they tag me in it and say, this challenge is going on this time, I might go and do it depending on what it is. So, when I first started out, there were like challenges that I probably shouldn't have been doing.
Well, that's what I was
Like
going to say. They're fancy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I started out with handstand challenges, and I'm like, doggone well that you do not need to be doing a handstand. You have no upper body strength. You have no awareness of your body. Like, this is not for you. But I did it anyway.
Yeah. And I feel like those Instagram challenges, they're not, I shouldn't say all of them, like some of them are great, but the ones that I started in the beginning, they were not a good representation of the yoga practice, right? No. It doesn't like show you the steps and stages along the way to get there, Right. And it's about the tricks in the yoga practice, not the actual practice itself.
Right. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of where I've grown from. Like just not wanting to show the physical practice of yoga, but the full practice. So, meditation and concentration and all of the 8 limbs that nobody ever talks about. So,
the 8 what?
People, yeah, right. And so, you get those questions from people or you get those comments from people like, oh, yoga. Yeah, we're stretching. You're doing a lot of stretching. And I'm like, yes, we are, but that's not all that it is.
It's like when people say, oh, I can't do yoga because I'm not flexible. Yes, I always say that's like saying you're too dirty to take a shower. It doesn't make any sense.
Right. Never thought about that, but that is true. Okay.
You can tell people that from now on, and you don't even have to cite me.
I am.
Well, are you too dirty to take a shower?
That is a good point. Yeah, but it makes me cringe now when people say, I can't do yoga because I'm not flexible. Like you said, it makes me cringe when they say, oh yeah, that was a good workout. And I'm like, this is not what I'm trying to get across to you. Right. After you spend so much time in class trying to get students to like breathe and get into themselves and be aware of their body, and this is what they walk away with, it's kind of disappointing.
Yeah.
But I always help everything, I guess.
And I'm always torn about these things because I do work really hard in my own yoga practice and in teaching to really honor the lineage, and to honor the teachings. But I know we all start somewhere. You know what I mean? And I'm sure you're right. Just like when I was doing Instagram challenges or like, I don't know, going to like beer and yoga classes years ago and stuff like that maybe aren't really, quote, in line with the teachings.
Right.
And we all start somewhere, So whenever I see these things, there is a part of me that's like, I'm glad that people are starting, know, because yoga meets you where you are. So even if that means you're at a bar doing yoga, it's meeting you where you are.
Right. And I guess I'm torn about that as well, because I kind of want to keep paying homage to the actual practice of yoga and what it's supposed to mean. But I also understand that there are new ways to get people to yoga. What I don't agree with is when people just completely dismiss all of the history and all of the things that led them to the practice. So you can't just say, I practice yoga and now I just made this whole new style of yoga, but nothing else matters, Right.
Absolutely. Because there's a long lineage, and part of the yoga practice is honoring lineage. Right. It's really important, and to honor the teachings. So, I mean, like I said, I work really hard to honor the teachings. It's a tricky time in the yoga world right now, It is. Yeah. You do a lot of really great work, though. I've been following you on Instagram a little bit like a creeper. It's a weird world that we live in, that our lives are like so public,
Listen, we're all creepers to someone else. So, I mean, I'm not offended. I'm not creeped out at all because I do the same thing. I'm like, what is she doing today?
I mean, they're putting it out there for us to see, right?
Right. Yeah. It's for us to consume, and that's what we're here for.
Yeah. Well, while I'm creeping on your Instagram, I am seeing some really amazing things that are honoring the teachings, but also opening up avenues for lots of people. So can you talk a little bit about your work in yoga, especially with representation?
So I've been saying since my teacher training back in 2016, 17, I graduated from training in 2017. Since then, in training, they kind of ask you, what do you want to do, or how, where do you want your practice to take you, or what your teaching style is, I guess. And I guess me being a Black woman and a curvier woman, a woman of size, I can go into different spaces and it's either I feel uncomfortable, not welcome, or, you know, people are just looking at you like, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
This is not, are you sure you want to do that? Maybe you should take this modification. Maybe you should do this. But, you know, it's just kind of, I feel out of place. And so I was like, maybe I should be a teacher so that when people come to my classroom, I won't make them feel like that.
I really, really like that, because I feel like anytime in our lives when we feel like something is wrong, I believe the next step is to do something in your own life to make it right. You know, because it's easy to sit back and be like, this sucks and leave, you know. So I really think that's an amazing way, especially in relationship to yoga, because the yoga practice teaches us to be skillful in action, right? Like how can we do things in the world and be skillful with it? So that's really awesome.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. So I'm sorry, go ahead. I'm like the master of interrupting. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. That is fine. No, I'm just saying, I'm just trying to make a small difference in my corner of the world, because, you know, the internet everywhere. And so I just stick to my corner of the internet.
Yeah. So what are some things that you're doing in your classes, and not just in your yoga classes, but also in your brand, which is This Curvi Yogi, which everyone who's listening do know that that's THISCURVI Yogi with an I. So This Curvi Yogi. So what are the things that you're doing in your classes and with your brand to help bring more representation to the yoga practice?
So mainly with my brand, I want to showcase people who are more like me. And so I want to showcase more Black women, more Black men, if they're open to it. But, you know, with the name of my practice and This Curvi, I don't think any man wants to be called curvy. So it's kind of hard to like bring in a man.
You're so curvy? Like, could you imagine being like, what are you talking about?
I do have men that do participate in my This Curvi Yogi Thursdays, like even just replying back and just participating in that in any way. They do support me.
I love your This Curvi Yogi Thursdays. I just want to interrupt for 1 second. And can you please tell everyone what it is? I love it. I was actually just showing my boyfriend how cool it is.
So This Curvi Yogi Thursdays is kind of an affirmation-based feature that I do. The way that I came up with This Curvi Yogi is just like, it's an affirmation. So that's what my vision was for the whole brand, is for everyone to create their own affirmations. So This Curvi Yogi is beautiful. This Curvi Yogi is strong. Something
so good.
It can be simple. It can be complex. You just make it for yourself. Make it fit for you. And so I used to do every Thursday, but that was a bit much for me and my schedule. So I scaled back to a feature a month where I get one person that is following me, or I'm following, that I've kind of scoped out in the yoga community.
Creeping on Instagram.
Yeah.
That's how I found you. I was creeping.
Exactly. And I just reach out to them and get them to do a little bit of an interview, and I feature them on my website. So my website I'm still kind of developing my website. You know how that goes.
It's never ending. I understand.
Never ending. Thank you for saying that, because now I don't feel like I'm alone.
You are not alone. I promise you.
But yeah, so my vision for that website is to be representation for, you know, people of color, people of size, you know, people, basically misfits in the yoga community, if that makes sense.
I like that you call them misfits. I like the tagline. I don't know if I remember it verbatim, but like changing the perception of what a yogi looks like.
Yes.
You know, because there is this perception of what a yogi looks like. And that's what I like about it. It's not, it is affirmation, but it's also a reminder that all sorts of people are doing yoga, and they're coming from all backgrounds.
Right. You know, people, when you look for yoga in general, so if you do a general search on Google, what will you see? You'll see the skinny white woman, probably between 20 and 30, who is like very athletic and then can do all of these very crazy things with their body. And I'm like, that's all beautiful. But majority of the people that practice yoga do not look like that.
They don't. And, even me, now I have to joke because I am a white woman who practices yoga and my name is Becky, which is like the whitest name ever.
Wait.
It's like the
That's
worst.
Funny. That is funny.
It's the worst. Every fucking decade, there's some new song making fun of my name. It's terrible.
Oh my God. So you're Becky with the good hair. Oh my God.
I mean, I try. But, I am obviously a white woman who practices yoga, but I actually, though in some ways I do fit that mold, in some ways I don't, because I'm not 20 years old anymore. My body does not do crazy shapes. I mean, I'm pretty flexible from a dance background. I'm pretty open from my dance background, but inversions terrify me. I can hardly do them. I can't do arm balances. If you look at my website, my About Me page, I'm doing a prop supported arm balance. I mean, I don't really consider myself to be curvy, but I am not petite, And so even then I walk into yoga studios sometimes that I swear yogis are all 4 feet tall. I don't get it. So it's really nice just to see this broader spectrum of what yogis look like. Because not all yogis are former professional ballerinas. Not all yogis are 20-year-old white women. It's diverse because the world is diverse.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. It's good.
And that's just what I want people to see, because you don't get to see that every day unless you're on Instagram and unless you're a part of the yoga community. Yeah. You're not going to see it.
Yeah, for sure. So you have This Curvi Yogi Thursday. What are some other things going on in your classes and in your brand? Maybe in terms of representation, but I know you also work a lot with body positivity, which I think those might come hand in hand too.
Right.
So what's going on?
So my classes are, I'm not going to say, so my classes aren't titled body positivity or anything like that, but the way that I try to attract people of different backgrounds and different body types is I just cater to what you want to do. So I try to watch my language of what I say and how I say it.
Oh, that's cool.
You can go into a classroom and they say, well, you're supposed to do this, or you're supposed to be like this, or you're supposed to feel this. But the reality is my body's different from yours.
Right.
Your body's different from mine.
Yes.
And so for me to tell you that this is where you're supposed to feel it is kind of not right.
Yeah, I think that's really important. I had an episode really early on in Dharma Drops podcast with, she's a physical therapist here in Wilmington, Jess Hartman. And she talked a lot about that, about how, our bodies are going to look and feel really different in certain postures. Right. And that's really important because I hear people say things like, this should be a side bend. Well, maybe not. Maybe that person's already really open there, or maybe they're super tight. And right now that's just in their hamstring, whatever, Right. Yeah, that's really important work to do.
So it's just like allowing the students to feel what they feel and just kind of getting them to acknowledge it. So I think I try to work on asking more questions. So, it might be a rhetorical question. So where do you feel this? Do you feel, and if you come to my class enough, I'm just going to expect you to answer. So it's going to be like, where do you feel this? Oh, I feel it in my hamstring. Cool. That's fine. As long as there's no pain, like you're not feeling any pain in your knees, your elbows, it's not putting a lot of strain on any of your extremities. I just want to make sure that you're feeling it in a way that's not going to cause you pain later.
Absolutely.
So there's a difference between muscle awareness and pain.
Yes.
And I think, trying to get students to recognize the difference is hard, but it's necessary.
Yeah. And I like the asking questions. I actually do that in my classes a lot too. I'll say things like, what's happening to your inner thigh? Mm-hmm. Because I can tell them, yoga teachers say this weird shit like spiral your inner thigh, that sort of stuff. You can say those sorts of things, but sometimes it doesn't make any sense. So it's easier, I think, for people to connect with their body. What's happening to your inner thigh? And you think, well, I don't know right now. And now you're thinking about it, And so you start to tap into what is happening with that part of the body.
And that's why I kind of pay attention to my language, because like you said, a lot of shit we say is just not possible.
I had a I just did in my class, like I was a man. And I said, and I know sometimes the language that we use in yoga classes is kind of feminine because there are a lot of women in yoga, you know, and obviously I'm a woman. So like my language is feminine. And I told him, I said, press your shoulder blades. He was in upward facing bow, Urdhva Dhanurasana. And I said, press your shoulder blades to the back of your heart. And he started cracking up. He was like, that's the most ridiculous thing I've heard. And in some ways, it kind of was the most ridiculous thing. But I do believe that sometimes that fine alignment can help you figure out which direction to go.
Right.
But he was not having any of it. He was like,
and that's why I struggle between like saying different body parts in certain ways and just like saying it for what it is. So, you know, you say the back of the thigh, or you say the hamstring, or you say the front of the thigh, or you say the quad. You know, some people are like, well, what is that? I don't know. I don't know what it is. So it's kind of a struggle between whether you need to be very specific with what it's actually called, or whether you just need to be very relative. Yeah. So this is where it is, and this is what you should be doing. But it's still a lot of figuring things out, even as a teacher. Even after teaching for 2 years, I'm like, I still don't know what to say sometimes.
Man, I teach English at UNC Wilmington. I've been teaching English for 11 years. I still don't know what to say. So,
well, that makes me feel better.
Yeah, girl, your website doesn't have to be perfect, and you don't have to know what you're talking about.
Right. Two main things. Yeah.
So I like that though, because in relationship to your work and body positivity, it taps people into their own body experiences, that it's not supposed to feel a certain way, right? It's you really witnessing what you're experiencing in your own body in that moment.
Right.
And that's really awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, awesome. So I know on your Instagram too, you have some other things going on in terms of representation and body positivity. Do you have any other examples about things that are happening in your community right now?
I have a lot going on. I have a YouTube channel as well. So all of this kind of ties in together. So I have what I call self-care Sundays, which is not very original, but you know, this is what I keep doing every week. It's like checking in with everybody. Right. Just be a part of it. Just keep rolling with it. That's all you have to do. I do self-care Sundays just to kind of check in with people to see how they're taking care of themselves. Because again, self-care is not just spa days and baths.
Oh my God. Thank you so much for saying this.
Because I cringe every time somebody says, self-care, I'm going to get a pedicure. And I'm just like,
I just wish everyone could see you right now. So whenever, obviously, because we're recording right now, but for listening, I always record so we can see each other because it helps the conversation stay natural. And like the eye roll and then the fists in the air were just really amazing.
It just makes me cringe and I just don't know what to do sometimes. But, self-care is it's not one dimensional. You have different aspects to it. So I always say, and this is information you can find anywhere, but self-care is physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, and what's the last one? Practical.
I think so, gracious.
Because you're trying to figure out what you're trying to say and it just doesn't come. But
I know all about it.
But I always think of it in those 5 types because self-care can be saying no to somebody. Like, I'm not going to deal with this today.
So my friend just posted something on Instagram about the importance of saying no. And then I have a course online that I sell called Feeding the Wildlife. And there's a woman in that did an exclusive podcast about decluttering. And she talks about decluttering as a form of self-care. And you can do that by saying no. No. No is a complete sentence. That's what my friend posted on Facebook today. It said no is a complete sentence.
So if you take anything away from this podcast today, no is a complete sentence. Okay? You don't owe anybody an explanation. You just need to say no.
That's what I always struggle with. I always feel like I have to tell people why I'm saying no. Like, no, I can't because, or no, I apologize too much when I don't need to. Like, no, I'm sorry. I'm going to practice just saying no.
Yes. And you'll feel good after you say it. It's just hard to say it. Like you say, it's hard to just get it out without saying no, because you don't have to say no, because just say no.
I do the same thing with saying thank you too. Someone will say like, "Oh, I like your shirt," and I have to say thank you. I got it at. I have to like give them more information than what I really need to give. I don't know, because I can't stop running my mouth all the time.
Or another thing that people do is they don't take the compliment. So you say that you have to explain where you got it from. So people will say, you know, that's a nice shirt. Oh, this whole thing.
Oh no. Yeah.
You know, like, and I've gotten on people before, like, just take the compliment.
Just
obviously somebody said, obviously somebody saw something in you to compliment you or something about you. Just take the compliment and be grateful for it. But I know it's hard, takes a while, but I still work on that myself, but it's
practice.
Very, very helpful. Yes.
So tell me one more time, because I'm going to forget. I'm sure listeners probably want to know too. What are the 5 steps to self-care?
5 types of self-care: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and practical.
Cool. Okay. That's good information.
And if you want to kind of elaborate, the only one that I think people will have trouble with is practical, because practical to me is just taking care of little things. So if you take care of your bills, you make sure everything is paid on time, that is a form of self-care, because you don't have to worry about it.
That's right. That's right. I have in one of my online courses, I have a whole section about doing the self-care that you don't want to do. Meaning, like, and I say this from personal experience, put your laundry away, because I hate to put my laundry away.
Yes.
I don't know why.
Me too.
I hate
it takes days sometimes.
I know. And then I have this stupid pile of laundry, and it's like more stressful to get through it. I don't know why I do that.
Yes.
But I do say in my courses, just do the self-care that you don't want to do, and you'll feel better for having it done.
Yes. You definitely will.
So good. So you are doing a lot of things. You have This Curvi Yogi Thursday. You have self-care Sunday. What's happening on the other 5 days of the week?
The other 5 days of the week are actual life.
Oh, boo! So
I mean, it's hard. It's hard to manage your own brand while you're working full time and teaching on the side. So it's kind of like, that's what takes up my life. And, you know, it's a process.
For sure.
You know, I try to pick and choose what I can do, and I can do Sunday, I can do Thursday, and I can do the other days whenever I have time.
That's right. That's good. That's all you can do. So that's what you do.
Right. Just like you said about decluttering, you have to manage your time in the same way. Don't clutter up your space or your mind with all of these things that you have to do. Just kind of pick a simple schedule and stick to it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, that's good. This is such good information. And then what I like so much about recording the podcast is that we get to talk about whatever we want to talk about, and think about how many things we've covered already. Yes. So good.
It's been a good conversation so far.
Heck yeah. So one of the things that I mentioned this before before we restarted recording, is I can't talk at all. One of the things that I like so much about your Instagram that I mentioned before recording, there we go, is I like how positive your Instagram is. It's really uplifting, and it's a space to celebrate other people. And I really like that. And so I don't know if you have anything that you want to add to that, but I mean, if you do, you know, how do you keep your community uplifted so often and so in such a sweet sort of way?
It's just kind of, I do better with individual connections. So a lot of the people that participate in my This Curvi Yogi Thursdays and other things that I do, I kind of communicate with them on a regular basis.
Oh, cool.
That's kind of a message to say, hey, hope you're doing well, or, you know, commenting on a post for them, or just checking in with them. Like, you build connections that way, and you kind of keep people engaged that way. And that's kind of it. A lot of the people that I engage with on Instagram, I've engaged with for years. years.
That's really cool. And I think, that goes back to the yoga practice too, about connection, but also I think it's important for the sense of representation that it's not just like, oh, hey, I'm going to put a picture of you up because you look different than the standard yogi. It's like, hey, we are a community of people who are practicing yoga. It's amazing work that you're doing for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Dharma Drops podcast is now available on the Podcoin app, and it is the podcast player that pays. Not only can you listen to Dharma Drops, but you can listen to all of your favorite podcasts on Podcoin. Just get the Podcoin app on iPhone or Android. It's free and super easy to use. And you can use the app to then earn Podcoins that you can trade in for gift cards or to donate to charity. And there's pretty sweet gift cards on there like Athleta, Amazon, Starbucks, and more. But even better, you can use all of your Podcoins and then donate to a charity, which is really in the true Dharma Drops spirit. I've been using the Podcoin app to listen to all my favorite podcasts because, hey, I'm listening anyway. I might as well earn something. So get the Podcoin app and use the invite code Dharma Drops. That's DHARMA Drops, and you'll get 300 Podcoins just for signing up if you use my code. Again, that's the code Dharma Drops, and you get 300 Podcoins if you use the code Dharma Drops, DHARMA DROPS, Dharma Drops. Okay, friends, go get you some free stuff. So is there anything else that you want to share about your work with This Curvi Yogi?
I think, like I said before, I'm just working on representation of people who just generally do not fit the yoga person profile. Yeah. But I also work on, and this is more of a personal thing for me, is not just representing the pretty pictures or representing the pretty finished products of anything. So I've become a little bit more vulnerable over the years to just kind of share a little bit more and kind of go into even kind of the dark side of it, because a lot of people think, this is all love and light.
Don't even get me started on the goddamn love and light. I can't. Look, I'm about to start a new teacher training with a teacher in California who is very traditional in the way she teaches. And let me tell you what, there is no goddamn love and light in her world. She trained with like some of the most traditional yoga teachers in Western yoga. Who've all since died. They were not teaching love and light and beauty bird this and hey, they weren't teaching that. Right. Love and light. I don't even know where it came from, but don't get me started.
It's kind of a mirage. Like, do you ever reach love and light?
Well, the problem with the love and light, it's not so much like, sure, I want everyone to be happy and have a good life and, and to have peace and ease in their life. Sure, I want that. But if it's all love and light all the time, we're missing all of the hard work in life that has to be done.
It's not realistic.
Right.
It's not completely realistic.
Right. If we see conflict, if we see things in a yoga class, let's say like an African-American woman's in a yoga class and everyone's staring at her, love and light. You just did nothing for the issue, right? You did nothing for it. Or if it's like political issue, love and light, you're not doing
going to work. Mm-hmm. Right. And that's kind of what I want to portray as well is, everything isn't always love and light. Everything isn't always rainbows and flowers. There are going to be times where you just don't feel like doing shit. There are going to be times where you feel like you're not progressing the way that you want to. Mm-hmm. And, we live our lives online so much that sometimes it's a little bit depressing to try to live up to a persona that you've created. Yeah. And that's another struggle with being a creator of anything and trying to keep up with a brand that you've created. So I just kind of work on being transparent. Me too. Letting people know, like today's not a good day, but here you go. It's like, hard. It's okay to be there. It's okay to be in that space. You have to take time to feel it in order to get out of that space.
It's hard to put vulnerability out. I actually need to be better with that in my own social media. I just feel like I'm not Instagram's number one fan. I like to look at Instagram. I don't like to post on it because it drives me crazy. Yeah. But it's hard to put that stuff out there sometimes. But I think that work is really important as a reminder that life sometimes sucks. There's personal conflict, there's spiritual conflict, there's social conflict, you name it, there's conflict. And that's the whole freaking point of the yoga practice, is to figure out how to navigate the conflict most easily.
Right.
Without love and light. So that means you're going to be in the middle of the muck. It's going to suck a lot.
Yes. You're going to see the love and light at the end of the dark tunnel that you have to go through, but it's going to happen. You have to just know how to navigate it. Like you said, it's just hard to do that in this day and age. It's kind of it's kind of hard to be vulnerable, but you have to be it.
Yeah. I think that's a good takeaway for folks too, that, love and light doesn't fix things, but, you do have to be vulnerable and open to the conflict of life. That's all there is to it.
That's it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we could just end this thing right now.
Hey, I think we've dropped a lot of gems today. So.
I think mic drop, done. Yes. Let me ask you this. So when you teach yoga, and I know that you're working on things like body positivity and yoga for everyone, right? No matter what the body is like. When you do have people who come in, maybe who have your not so traditional body shape, who might be larger bodied or curvier, whatever language you want to use. One of the things that I have come across in my experience as a yoga teacher, and this just happened to me for the first time, where someone's body was not able to do something because of its size. And I didn't know what to do. Right. I haven't had that training because that's not the things that we teach in yoga teacher training all the time. And
it's not, and especially a 200-hour training, you're not going to get all of that you need. I think and I guess for me, I'm good at thinking on my toes, like thinking right in the moment. But think about all the props that you use. How can you use them creatively to do something? So if you want somebody to do crow and they have no ab strength or anything there in the core, use blocks under their shoulders. So they're like putting their weight on the block. They're still getting the shape, but they're not putting a lot of weight on the arms, on the wrist.
Yeah.
They're still doing what they need to do to kind of be in that shape.
So are you just like creative with this stuff and just kind of figured it out? Or I know there's trainings out there. Do you follow?
There are. Yes, and I really want to take her training because she does yoga for all bodies. So chair yoga, different things. And I'm just like, she posted the video with this guy who had, who was an amputee. Who didn't have, I think both legs were off, but he was doing the sun salutation with a bolster underneath his knees.
It's so amazing.
I really want to expand my skill set to include everybody. But for me, I haven't encountered people of that, I guess that type of person before, like an amputee.
Yeah,
someone who kind of has a different challenge. But for the people that I do encounter, people of size, I kind of think about the props that they can use or think about the steps that it takes to get to the pose. So, give them options. And that's what I try to do, especially think about a split. If you can't do a full split, put a bunch of bolsters underneath their hips and let them sit on it. So this is how your split is going to be. You just sit on it, allow the hips to open a little bit, or put blocks underneath or pillows, if they're at home. Use different things, just be creative. And that's kind of what I try to do, is be creative in my classes and do different things. A lot of my students will tell you that I come up with the craziest little flows because, I kind of want people to be aware, but I also don't want them to think about it too much. Just kind of do it and have fun and then know that this is what you're working towards.
Yeah. I love props. I love yoga props, and I love what they can teach us about our bodies and the yoga practice. I really love them, but I feel like, I know a lot of modifications with props just over the years, practicing and taking trainings and stuff, but there is so much more I could learn, really to meet all needs. It's not the studio that I work for here in Wilmington. It definitely has diverse needs. Anytime you're working with the public, there's diverse needs, but it's actually the yoga classes at UNC Wilmington that I teach. It's a 2-credit yoga class that they get, toward graduation. It counts for credit. There's 30 students per group, and you want to talk about diverse needs. You have college athletes, and also students who just had a knee surgery. And they're all in one class together, and there's 30 of them and one of me. And it is so stressful.
I bet. Before I even finished my training, I went and taught a few classes at the university at East Carolina, and that class was full, and it was about 25 to 30 people, and I was just like so nervous. And this was before I started teaching for real, so you can imagine the anxiety that was going on. Like, I just did not know what I was doing, but if I could go back and do that again, that would be wonderful. But that was just, you can't get to everybody, and classes are hard anyway because you can't get to everybody. You can't do everything that you want to do. And so I've kind of learned to use my words. So that's why I say just kind of offer the modifications as you can. But I've been to a lot of classes that don't. So it's kind of like you either do this or this, and that's it. They don't try to personalize it. They don't try to cater to your needs or ask you, what can you do?
Yeah. And I think that just comes back full circle to the importance of just remembering that not everyone's body is the same. We just can't expect people to look and feel the same. And even if they look the same in the pose, they don't feel the same.
They don't feel the same at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think that's a pretty big takeaway from this. I mean, a lot of people who listen to this podcast aren't yoga teachers, but I think it's important for the practitioner to remember that too, because they feel like it's supposed to do something. It's supposed to feel this way, so I think that's sort of a nice full circle we've come.
Right. And I think also as teachers, it helps to continue to take other people's classes.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of times some teachers just don't. And I've seen it. They don't take other people's classes. They don't think they need to, or they just continue their own practice. But I think what helps me as well is just kind of every once in a while, stepping back and taking a class from someone else that you've never taken a class from, or just in general, because you get to see how they talk to the students, you get to see how they explain things, or how they get the students to come into a pose and come out of it. It helps a lot. We can learn from each other. And I think sometimes we forget that. That's
really important. And I talk about this all the time, that we can learn from each other, and there's space for all of us, because the yoga world gets really competitive. It's a strange dynamic, it's all love and light until someone's class numbers are outnumbering yours or something like that. And everyone's freaking out, that we can learn from each other, and there's space for all of us, right? The way you teach yoga is going to attract a different group of students in the way that there's I can't say it, the group of students that would come to me. However, I just got tongue tied. It sounded like I said stupid students, and that is not. That is not what I said. They're not stupid. Tongue tied, I swear.
I got you. I understand.
You're on my side. But I think that's really important, that we can support each other and that there's room for all of us. And that comes back to the point too, that there is full space for everyone in yoga. It does not matter what you look like. It doesn't matter what you weigh, what you can or you can't do. There is space for all of us here.
Right.
Exactly. I mean, again, end of show. We're done.
We're done.
So tell us, if we want to find you on the internet, on YouTube, on Instagram, if we want to practice with you and follow you and learn more about you and creep on you, where do we get you?
Yes, creep away. I've made it pretty easy for you to follow me on everything. It's This Curvi Yogi everywhere. So Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, which I don't really use.
I never use Twitter.
You can follow me up there. You might see something every once in a while. And YouTube. YouTube is This Curvi Yogi as well.
Cool. And don't forget, guys, curvy is with an I. So just
And my website, which I completely forgot about. My website is www.thiscurviyogi.com.
Cool. Awesome. So cool. So everyone, you can find This Curvi Yogi all over the internet. But before we go, we have some traditional things to do here at Dharma Drops podcast. And that is to talk about things that have nothing to do with anything. So I'm a firm believer that there's a whole whole lot to life outside of yoga, that we can hold it in our hearts and we can live our life day to day and breath by breath through the yoga practice. But things like TV and movies and stuff are really good. So are there any things that you're doing right now that you're just really enjoying? Reading any books, listening to any podcasts, watching any shows? What are you doing for fun these days?
I listen to podcasts all day long.
Yeah.
I listen to a variety of comedy and storytelling podcasts.
Oh, cool.
Inspirational, all of that. I guess just to name a few, one of my favorites right now is LeVar Burton Reads. And that is a storytelling podcast where he basically retells a short story.
Oh, that's cool.
So he's actually reading the story and kind of animating it, and it's wonderful.
That's really cool.
Another story podcast that I listen to is The Truth.
The Truth.
And that's they're like short stories that they read.
I love short stories.
For me to get back into some kind of reading, that's what I've that's what I've used to substitute reading, is to listen to stories.
Me too, because look, I have a graduate degree in literature, and I used to read all the time.
Yes, I do too.
Audio is so freaking good right now.
Yes, it's
so good.
I have such a long list of podcasts. It's not even funny. I'm so behind on them. Like, I just have a whole queue of episodes that I'm listening to.
I'm definitely getting into, which is crazy because YouTube has been around forever, but there's actually like really good shows on YouTube, like people produce from their homes and stuff. Yeah, there's this, what is it called? Like a home, not a home renovation show, like a home makeover show. That's what it is. Mm-hmm. It's called Mr. Kate, which I don't know why it's called that, but that's the name of it. And they do all these renovations on a budget, and they're really good. And they only spend like $150 or $200. So I've been enjoying watching that lately. It's pretty good because that's my budget.
Right. You get into the real renovation shows, and they're like, my budget is $900,000.
I know. Do you watch these shows? And it's like House Hunters, and they're like, well, I mean, I only have a mortgage. So it was only pre-approved for $2.5 million. I'm like, get the fuck out of here. Right. Like,
it always kills me to hear what their occupations are. Cause it's like,
they're not yoga teachers.
Right. I'm like, they're like, I teach, third grade, and my husband owns a business, and we have a budget of $1 million. And I'm like, where is this coming from?
I don't know. It's crazy.
Not saying that he couldn't make $1 million, but I mean,
I understand
certain occupations. I'm like, this is a little questionable.
I know. I don't get it. I've definitely,
it doesn't seem realistic.
They've made different and maybe better choices than I have with their lives.
Maybe we're doing something wrong. I don't know.
I don't know.
Figure it out, I guess.
I like what I do. I like what I do. Even if it doesn't pay much, I like what I do.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I think that's it for this episode of Dharma Drops podcast, unless you have anything else to say, anything else to share.
I think I've shared everything.
I think we dropped all the knowledge.
Yes, right. We have. There's a lot of gems for everyone to take away.
That's right. Okay, so don't forget to follow Jacquitta on Instagram at This Curvi Yogi with an I. And as always, you can follow me on Instagram at Rebecca Warfield Yoga and at Dharma Drops Podcast. And you can always find me on dharmadropspodcast.com. Until we meet again next time. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Hey, thanks for listening to this episode of Dharma Drops Podcast. Don't forget to head over to Facebook and join the Dharma Drops community page where we can hang out, share ideas, have fun, and just shoot the shit together. So head over to Facebook, search for Dharma Drops community page, and bada bing, bada boom, you're there. On Instagram, you can find me at Rebecca Warfield Yoga and at Dharma Drops Podcast. And of course, you can always head over to my website, RebeccaWarfield.com and dharmadropspodcast.com, and check out all my shenanigans there, including you can register for the Feeding the Wildlife 2-week course on my site. Okay, until we meet again next time. Bye.